Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful and honestly pretty counterintuitive idea. What if the secret to scaling your service business wasn't about adding more, but actually doing less? We're going to break down a masterclass that shows exactly how one business pulled this off.
Think about it. What if getting to that 10x growth level wasn't about piling on more features or more marketing or, God forbid, more hours, but just about simplifying everything? We're going to unpack this amazing consultation from business strategist Alex Hormozi. He shows how one company completely unlocked their potential just by cutting things back, like ruthlessly.
All right, so let's get into it. The whole story here starts with a real paradox. A business that was basically trapped because it was successful. From the outside looking in, everything seemed awesome. But behind the scenes, the founders were just stuck. They'd hit a massive wall.
So meet Kyle and Ariel. They call themselves the couplepreneurs. And if you just look at the numbers, things look fantastic, right? Almost $500,000 a year in revenue and an insane 43% profit margin. That's incredible. But, that was just the surface. Underneath it all, they were dealing with terrible cash flow, their marketing wasn't converting, and here's the kicker. They were completely 100% maxed out on time. They had literally hit a ceiling.
So you look at that and you think, okay, we need to fix the cash flow, fix the marketing, find more time. But was that the real problem? See, Hormozi looked at all this and immediately saw that these things, the cash flow, the marketing, the time, they weren't the disease. They were just the symptoms. They were all pointing to one single huge problem buried deep inside their business model.
And this is the absolute key to the whole thing. Their problem wasn't a sales problem. It wasn't a marketing problem. It was a delivery problem. The business was supply constrained. What does that mean? It means their growth wasn't limited because they couldn't find customers. It was limited because they literally could not serve one more person. Their own personal time had become the bottleneck. Okay, so once you know that, the solution becomes, well, it's brilliant because it's completely backwards from what most people would do. Think about it. Why on earth would you spend time and money trying to get more customers if you can't even handle the ones you have? So instead of jumping into ads or sales funnels, the strategy was to fix the product first, to completely re-engineer the offer so it could actually handle the growth they wanted.
And he used this really simple but super powerful framework. It's called the trim and stack method. It's basically 3 steps. First, you just list out every single little thing that's part of your offer. Then, and this is the hard part, you ruthlessly trim away all the stuff that takes up a ton of your time but doesn't actually give a ton of value to the client. Finally, you take what's left, the high-value scalable things, and you stack them. You double down and make them even better.
So what do you think was the very first thing to get cut? Yep, that 24/7 Slack access for clients. Hormozi's take on it was pretty blunt. Screw Slack, and for good reason. That one single feature, something clients thought was super valuable, was secretly eating up a staggering 40% of the founder's time. It was the absolute definition of a low-value, high-effort activity.
And you can see the whole transformation right here. The key is they didn't just cut stuff out and leave a hole. They strategically replaced things. So the unlimited Slack access that was a total time vampire? Gone. Those weekly group calls that nobody really showed up for? Eliminated. And in their place, a super high-impact one-on-one deep dive call when a client first joins. Then they move to these much more efficient one-on-4 group calls. And get this, the annual in-person event, which used to be just a bonus, is now a core part of the offer, happening twice a year. Way more value, way less day-to-day grind.
So what was the result of all this? It was immediate and it was absolutely massive. Just by changing how they delivered their service, not the service itself, just the delivery, their potential client capacity went from around 60 to over 150. That's more than double. It literally paved the way for that 10x growth they were looking for, all without them having to work a single extra hour.
Okay, so the delivery engine is totally rebuilt. It's ready for scale. Now, it's finally time to think about marketing. But first, they had to fix their customer acquisition model because it was kind of broken. So their main marketing thing was this 5-day online challenge. And it was just bleeding people. Look at this. They would lose half their audience just from day 1 to day 2. It was just so inefficient, and you can bet it was expensive to run. The fix for this was just so smart. It was simple, elegant, and perfectly on brand for them. Instead of this long, drawn-out 5-day challenge that people just kept dropping out of, they switched to a single 4-hour virtual event, and they called it the Date Night Fun. And this is why it worked so well. First off, the name is unique and memorable, but more importantly, it completely reframes the time commitment. It's not a 4-hour webinar, it's a date night for the target audience, who are couples. It takes all the value of that 5-day slog and packs it into one powerful evening. This naturally boosts the show-up rate, and it just creates the shared, high-energy experience that's perfect for making a sale.
All right, let's zoom out for a second here, because what we've seen with this one business actually reveals a really powerful universal framework that pretty much any service business can use when they feel like they've hit that same wall, when they've maxed out their time.
So when your time becomes the bottleneck, you basically have 4 choices, 4 paths you can go down. The first path is to raise your price, which means you're now in the business of branding. The second is to change the ratio from one-on-one to one-to-many, which is what the couplepreneurs did. That turns you into more of a practice. The third is to productize your service, which means you're really becoming a marketing and sales company. And the last one is to hire people, which means you better get good at recruiting and building culture. The key thing is, each one of these paths leads to a totally different kind of business.
So for our couplepreneurs, the choice was obvious. Changing the ratio was the clear winner for them. By just shifting those quarterly calls from one-on-one to one-on-4, they could serve 4 times as many people in the same amount of time. It just dramatically increased their leverage, but they didn't lose that personal touch.
And this quote right here just nails why this was so much better for them than hiring someone else. Their clients were paying for them, for their specific magic, their X factor. So the question they could pose to their clients was simple. Would you rather have a diluted X factor or a little bit less of our time, but you get the full 100% uncut version of us? When you frame it like that, the answer is pretty clear.
So let's wrap this all up into a blueprint that you can actually use. Step 1, you have to correctly diagnose your real problem. Are you actually supply constrained? Be honest. Step 2, fix your offer for scale before you even think about marketing. Trim the fat, get rid of those low-value time sucks, then stack the value. Double down on the things that are scalable and that your clients really love. And finally, you have to consciously choose your scaling path. Which of those 4 directions is the right one for you and the business you want to build?
You know, when you really look at it, the founders were trapped by one single belief. They believed they had to give that constant one-on-one access to be valuable. The second they shattered that belief, everything changed. It unlocked their entire future. So that really brings us to the final question for you to think about. What's the limiting belief that's holding your business captive right now? What's that invisible chain, that assumption you've never questioned, that's keeping you stuck?